Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Frequency of Fatherhood Summit. Today, we have on Hugo Correa. Hugo is a husband, a father of three, a Coast Guard's veteran, and a men's coach. Hugo helps men, already busy fathers, connect with their families, helping heal childhood wounds and develop emotional maturity and emotional intimacy in that process. Three, two, and one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Frequency of Fatherhood Summit. Today, we have Hugo Correa. How you doing, Hugo?
Good. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to have you on. Hugo, for those that don't know who you are, could you please introduce yourself? Tell them a little about yourself and what you do and why you're doing this work.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So I am a Coast Guard veteran. I did 6 years active duty in the Coast Guard. I still work for the Coast Guard just as a contractor. It's a lot easier. But I am a father of three, and I'm a men's coach, right? I'm a husband, and I have really, in my story, just to crumb it up, it's essentially, I thought really I was a great dad. I always wanted to be a great dad. That was one of my dreams, right? That was my goals in life. I really wanted to be the best dad I can possibly get. And a lot of people actually told me, hey, you're an amazing dad and this and that. And came a time and place in life that I realized that I was falling short of what I wanted to be, right? And immediately I realized I needed to step up and become the absolute best version of myself. And I'm not saying that I'm there, because I don't think you ever stop. You love the process more than the goal. But I can tell you, man, that I'm 1,000 times better than what I already was when I thought I was a great dad. And I know that this work never ends, but that is essentially what I do, why I'm here. And now I realize that a lot of people needed to learn the skills. There's a lot of skills that they're not taught in the house. They're not taught by your parents, right? The reason why I was falling short, it was because I was never taught those little skills, those social skills, relational skills, connection skills, right? That I have now that allow me to have a deeper connection with my family. So understanding that and being able to help others has become a new purpose for me.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that. And that's one thing that I really resonate when I see your content and what you're putting out on Instagram and the way that you coach is that you really focus on building this emotional connection, right? When we think about fatherhood and where we want to go with this is we want to help men be able to connect more emotionally, right? We want to help men be able to connect with their spouses more emotionally. And so today we're going to talk about emotional connection and how to deeply connect with your loved ones, right? Your kids or your wife. And so kind of leading into that, can you tell me a little bit, in your own opinion, what does a healthy relationship look like?
So, a healthy relationship, it's extremely interesting, right? But it has so many levels, and that will require us to go way back and talk about a lot of different things, like, understanding your emotions, that is an absolute pillar, right? Being emotionally intelligent, have emotional maturity. So emotions are a big part of it, right? But a healthy relationship really looks like the ability to be with somebody that can truly learn who you are, right? And for that, there's so much that needs to happen. You need to first be safe and create a safe space for the other person to speak, not be judgmental, right? Allow the other person to have their opinions, right? A lot of people have like this one-side mentality that is like, if it's not my way, then you're wrong, that we cannot be together, right? And two things can be true, right? The theory of relativity, right? According to Einstein, two things can be true. And when you start really stepping back and realizing, listen, this is who I am, right? And this is who you are, and we can be in the relationship together. The biggest one to having a healthy relationship, and it's one of the biggest things that I talk to everyone. Yes, I'm a relationship coach. I'm a men's coach for relationships specifically. But what I teach is the relationship with yourself, is the relationship with myself, with oneself, right? Because when you are in a healthy relationship with yourself, You learn to know that you're loved, that you're worthy of love, that you're lovable, right? That you're enough, your worth, your value, and so many other things. Then you can give those things to somebody else. There's a big saying about you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? You have to fill your cup first in order to pour to anybody else. You cannot give what you don't have. So that is my approach, right? Because at the end of the day, a healthy relationship starts with a healthy you, right? And then you can have a healthy relationship. And a lot of people come to me and start, it's like, hey, my relationship is all bad. And then they start pointing the fingers to somebody else, right? Like my spouse or whoever else, or my kids are not listening to me, whatever it might be. And really, we come back always to your relationship with yourself. Because at the end of the day, you truly learn that when you love yourself, you're able to give love. When you have empathy, when you understand your emotions, you're able to empathize with your family, with your kids, with your spouse, right? When you can regulate yourself, then you can help regulate others. But it doesn't work the other way around. If you expect others to be regulated, others to love you first, right? The truth is they need to love themselves first to then love you. So in reality, a healthy relationship starts with a healthy you. And when you are truly healthy, then you can come into a relationship and exponentially add to the value of that relationship, right? But when you are unhealthy, then no matter what the other person does, the relationship takes two, right? And one of the easiest way that I always explain this, and I'm a math person, I used to be a math teacher, and it's a basic formula. It's a triangle formula. And the reason why I use a triangle is because every relationship is a triangle. You have the other person, and then the third peak is the relationship you both have, right? So, and I use that because it's extremely important. So there's a formula that is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. C squared being the relationship. So the better, the more healthier, and the more you improve yourself, when you just, whatever math you want to do, C will automatically increase. So in order for your relationship to be great, yourself, you need to be exponentially great. And that's essentially the way I work. And that's essentially what we talk about a healthy relationship. Everyone comes at me thinking that a healthy relationship is talking about what the other person can do for you. And it always starts with you.
Yeah, that was powerful, man, and I resonate so much with that. I really do firmly believe that men want better relationships. Like men want that deep connection that we're speaking about, like that healthy relationship. And I know that men are also tangible. So I'm just going to ask the question, how do you create that deeper connection? Like you talk about the triangle, your thoughts on that, talking about the triangle. How do men create that deeper connection?
So first, let's take a step back and disseminate part of the connection, right? So when you're connecting, it's part of that relationship triangle, right? You can connect to yourself, to your individual self, and you can do that in many ways, right? You can do that with meditating, you can do that with journaling, right? And those are tools that you can use to create a better relationship with yourself. Now, when you start adding another person, right? There's many ways that you can deepen that relationship. And the first one is you need to stop assuming, right? You need to stop all assumptions. A lot of men, when they come to me, it's like, yeah, I want to have better relationship with my spouse. And then I ask them, how's your communication? It's like, oh, it sucks. Why? Well, I don't know. Like, I can't talk to her. Why not? Right. And sometimes it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell her. I don't know what to ask her. It's like, why don't you ask her what she likes to eat? Right. I don't know. Simple stuff. It's like, oh, I already know. So he already has assumptions of the person he married. And then you hear all the time, well, they are this way. Even us with our kids. Oh, my son just likes this. Or they don't like this other thing. So we start making assumptions And a person might change perspective from time to time. So reducing the assumptions is the first step, right? And when you reduce the assumptions, the next one comes into play, which is ask questions, not just any type of questions, right? For example, do you like the color red? That's a yes or no answer. And you can lead somebody to the answers you want by asking close-ended questions, right? Yes or no questions. But when you truly want to learn about the other person, you ask open-ended questions, right? What color do you like? What things do you prefer? And it's mind-blowing sometimes to people. It's like, is it that simple? And yes, it is that simple. Let me ask you a question. When you meet someone for the first time, right? If you truly want to get to know the person, what do? Do you start just telling them all the things that you do? What if you truly want to learn or to know someone, what do? You ask questions. Is the things you just asked me. Let me ask you a question. Let me get to know you a little better, right? And when you assume, you don't ask because you think you already know the answer. So you need to stop all assumptions. It's almost like you're dating again. Date your wife. Date your wife on a daily basis. Date your kids. I go out and on dates with my kids. And I ask them all the time, hey, what do you like right now? Because listen, kids, today like Pokemon, and then tomorrow they might like, I don't know, Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever it might be, right? It might change, right? And actually, one of the times my son told me, hey, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm no longer into it. It's like, okay, right? But when you ask them questions, what do you like? Do you like this? No, I changed my mind, and it's okay. But you start learning to understand them. The other part that goes into that, right, deeper connection is seeking to understand. Is extremely important because when you start having a conversation and you seek to convince, that will be the other part. When you seek to convince is you want to put your thoughts to the other person. And then you're not really listening to what they're trying to tell you, right? It's really about you and not about them. When you seek to understand, you listen with the intent to understand. When you seek to convince, you listen with the intent to respond, right? So when you start asking all these questions, this is just a whole trail of things. Again, we can go very, very deep into that. But let me then jump real quick into those are basic ones. Those are the basic ones that I tell everyone. Let's talk about your spouse and your kids. Once you are, okay, now I start getting to learn to know my wife, my kids. Deepening connection. You can do this with this formula. This formula is not mine. Okay, it's not like I invented it. I'm not gonna take credit for it, but it's 4 E's. Okay, and I bet you 99% of the men that are gonna watch this video only do number 1. It's entertainment, right? This 4 keys, simple. Entertainment, right? You want to deepen the relationship with your spouse? Start with focusing on this 4th, and this is levels. Entertainment. This is just watching TV, watching a movie, going, and just doing something together, just watching something, right? Everyone does this. But then now let's jump into the 2nd level. Experiences and experiments. When was the last time you did something for the first time with your spouse? How many times has your spouse told you, I'm tired of doing this thing? Yeah, I mean, yes, you take it into experience. Let's say I have access to a theme park, right? We have yearly passes, right? It is an experience. Is it a new one? No. I mean, I can still take my wife and it's fun, right? But those are the experiments. How well can you experiment? Have we done this? Have we cooked together, right? Those experiences, and even have we cooked together? Yes. Can we experiment in the kitchen? Can we try to make this thing out of nowhere, right? And those times, the times that I have decided to do that with my wife has been the times that we have connected the best. And she normally is like, man, this was so fun. This was so, still in my house, still inexpensive, Nothing to break the bank or anything like that, but focusing, being intentional about these levels, right? Third level, education. Learn something new. You know how different it is to be right next to somebody, and you're both like, stumbling around this thing. It's funny, it's engaging, it's very intense, right? And then you might be a little better or whatnot, and then you can help her or she can help you. Same with your kids. All those things with your kids as well. I'm going to talk about education here for a second, because with your kids, normally we think that we're teaching them all the time. Not too long ago, I decided to take a class with my son for forging, like metal forging. I don't know anything about forging, but I decided to go with him, right? And I learned, I grabbed the thing, he was heating it with me, and we had fun. We do have dates with our kids, right? And education is not just about, uh, you know, you and your wife, or you and your kid, or you teaching your kids. It's you learning with them. You don't know everything. Learning a new language, learn a language with your spouse, learn a language with your kids. You know how fun that is? You know what I mean? Having them teach you, or those kind of things, that connection that creates when you both are learning something, striving for something, for a similar goal, right? I can name a bunch: reading a book, learning guitar, learning to paint. There's so many of them. You don't even have, once again, you don't have to break the bank, right? And then the last one, and that this one is extremely important. It's engagement in the community. When have you served the community together, right? When you actually, like, it is a thing, and this, you can research this in many, many ways, but when you serve to others, it fulfills you at a different level. And when you do it with your spouse, even better. Not only are you serving a community, but you're doing it as a couple, as a partnership. And the bond that you create there is beyond. It's a connection. You're doing a lot of things at once. It's an experience, right? It's educational because you're learning something new, probably, if you do, helping homeless shelters and doing some other things. So you're doing almost all of them at once. So engagement is the absolute number one. That not only is fulfilling, but it's very, very much connecting. And that's one of the best ways you can create really deep connection with your spouse and with your kids.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. And kind of what I sum up with that is, and I'll drop it in the show notes here, but the 4 E's, right? And I'm not going to butcher them, but focusing on those 4 E's will then, right? And this is something that I really want to hone in on for a second, is it deepens this emotional connection, right? The safety that we speak of, and something that I know that you are really good at when you're coaching clients, when you're coaching men, when you're educating, is helping men understand the difference between emotional maturity and emotional intimacy. And so if you could just take a few minutes to dive into that before we transition to the next speaker.
Sounds good. So yeah, this is definitely one of my bread and butters, right? Because as men, since we have grown up, every time, at least for me, and for the majority of men I talk to, most of the time when we are expressing emotions, they tell them, if it's not anger, happiness, or rage, they tell them to bottle it up, bury it, don't show it. It's a sign of vulnerability, all those things, right? So what we learn is it is not safe. It is not okay. The world does not agree with the men feeling all these emotions, right? So there's a lot of things that happen, and I'm going to give, I guess, a little bit of background story here, or not story, but so that way we can understand why it's so important, right? We are human beings and we have emotions. They're there, right? Emotions and logic are totally opposite, right? You cannot logic emotions, and they always happen. We're human, right? The difference has happened a lot is that for men, they always have told them, no, don't show it, suck it up, don't cry, right? Don't show that, or don't show that you're hurt, because it's vulnerability. Well, what ends up happening is then you are unable to connect. This is the number one part for connection. right? We talked about deeper connections. This is the number one part, which I didn't mention, but for connection is to have emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, right? Why is this so important? Well, in order to connect, you got to put yourself in the other person's shoes. That's called empathy. And for you to have empathy, you need to feel what the other person might be feeling. And I say might because you don't know what the other person is feeling, but you can at least assimilate what they might be feeling, right? And when you do that, the person can feel seen, heard, understood, right? Because it's not just the words that are spoken when somebody's telling you what's going on in their lives. It's about the feeling. What is happening behind the words? What are they feeling, right? But this is once again, this is a problem. In order for you to have empathy, you need to know what you are feeling. So you can connect with what the feeling of the other person is. If you cannot connect, then it's really going to come out as insensitive. And then the connection is completely gone. It's broken. You can't do anything else, right? So the first part is really understanding our emotions. What do I feel, right? And if you don't know what you feel, you can search it online, feelings wheel, and you can and there's more feelings in there, right? There's a ton more, right? But you can start there. You can start there. And you know what? I actually feel more unappreciated. I feel more disregarded, alienated, abandoned, all those things. And then you can start digging into it and really understand, okay, that's what I feel. Where do I feel it in my body, right? How is it manifesting? All those things in my throat, my neck, in my arms, everyone is different. Understand how you feel. That is just emotional intelligence. This is the first layer of this whole thing, right? We haven't even talked emotional maturity. And again, this is way more deep than all of this, but I'm just trying to give a very surface level view. Well, emotional maturity is the ability to understand when you can bring out your emotions, right? Now you understand what all the emotions are. So is it okay just to go around and say, oh, I'm all hurt, hey, Alex, what you said just completely destroyed me, and I'm no, right? It's the set and setting, understanding when, right? And we have talked about this where when a conversation starts, let's say your spouse, your kid, and I see a lot of dads, and I coach them through that, right? The kid is bringing an emotion. I'm feeling this way. And normally what happens is then the father feel either attacked, unappreciated, right? Misvalued or undervalued, right? Disregarded. So many feelings. And then because I felt a certain way, then I'm going to say, oh, hold on, but I gave you this. I'll give you a perfect example. I was with my kids. We took him to a park, right? And we did all these things. They did so many things. And then, but towards the end, it's like, oh, but I want to do that one thing. That one thing I want to do. Well, guess what? I had a budget and we did way too many things. And we just couldn't do that one thing. And it's okay. It's okay. So I'll put it, because this is a great example. So my kids now are saying like, oh, really wanted to get that done. And now they're melting probably, right? They're having, a meltdown in the middle of the park. And we're like, I could be telling them, I feel unappreciated, right? Because I paid for this. I took you here. I took the time out, to out of work to bring you to the park. And I was the whole day with you. And the one thing you want is that. I'm putting my feelings, right? And I'm using them as a weapon, right? So emotional maturity tells you is they started with their feelings. We finish with their feelings first. It is not time for me to involve my feelings now. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't. It's not the time, right? So I can address them and I can say, it is very hard. I know it is. I know that you really wanted to get that done, and it is unfortunate that we can't. And you can put a boundary. It's just not something we're going to do. I'm so sorry. And still, two things can be true, right? They can be upset And they can be grateful too that they were able to come to the park and enjoy all the things in the park, right? But they can be disappointed that they were not able to do that one thing. And if you don't have emotional intelligence, you cannot empathize with your kid, right? And the easiest way to put it is a person is going to get a raise or a promotion, right? Or, you know, and then you win. It's like, hey, I have all these things, and you didn't get the promotion. You can still be thankful that you still have a job and be disappointed that you didn't get the promotion. And both things can be true. Can you now connect more to your child that, yes, he can be grateful, but disappointed? Yeah. Let's finish with that first. I love you, and I understand that it's hard. Once they're done, and when they're in the car, hey, kiddos, do you guys know how much work comes into bringing you guys here? Everything has already passed. They're already stable. They already have calmed down. Now I can say it's a lot. And you know, there's times like, you know what, Papa, thank you. Thank you so much for doing all this for us. But if I decided to do it in the incorrect timing, what was going to happen is now we're going to go at each other. Well, they're upset, I'm upset, and then nothing gets resolved. So this is emotional maturity, right? Emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy is the ability to exchange your emotions in a safe environment without the fear of feeling that you're going to be discriminated or invalidated, right? That your feelings are going to be true and they can be accepted, right? And they can be encouraged. I don't have to agree with them, but I can understand that those are the feelings of the other person, right? And being able to feel seen by the other person, that is emotional intimacy. And, you know, jumping now into another thing, and sorry that, you know, this is just going, a lot of men have a lot of problem because they want physical intimacy, but they never gave the wife emotional intimacy. And when you truly understand that the feminine feels and then they do, the masculine does, then they feel. So for us, we have to have the actual physical intimacy to feel love. They need to feel love to have physical intimacy. So that love part is the emotional intimacy part, right? It starts outside of the bedroom, and you say it all the time, right? It starts not in the bedroom, right? It starts with listening to the other person. What is going on? You know, tell me more. I want to learn. I really want to understand where you're at. That is emotional intimacy. But if your wife feels that if she brings something up to you, she's going to feel, you know, invalidated. Oh, that's not true. That's not okay. You shouldn't feel that way. She would never bring anything. She would never feel safe enough to bring anything to you. And you are trampling your physical intimacy. It's crazy. And the more I coach guys and they're like, men, you know, when they finally get back with their wives, when they finally get back and they get into the bedroom, they're like, it is totally different because she feels love. She feels attracted. She feels engaged. She feels seen. So the other part is going to come easy, right? So that, in a nutshell, I don't want to go too far into it, but I just wanted to kind of summarize it in that.
Yeah, Hugo, man, you bring a lot there, and that's a lot of fire because I think that a lot of men sometimes don't make that connection. And I just want to sum this up on how I interpret this interview for men that you know, I think this starts with the connection to self. You mentioned it. You have to be able to connect with yourself, not just physically, but emotionally, right? You have to be able to have that connection with yourself. I also like how you broke down the 4 E's, right? And I might butcher it, correct me if I'm wrong, but entertainment, experiment, experience, education, and then what was the last piece?
Engagement.
Engagement, right? So like that's the 4 E's, the first 4E framework, and then the second 4E framework that we talked about the last 2, but emotional intelligence, or excuse me, emotional literacy, emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and emotional intimacy. right? And so those are the four things as we wrap up this interview that I think stands out for all men specifically in creating that deeper emotional connection with men. Hugo, if this resonated with people that are watching, how can they get in contact with you? How can they work with you? What specials or offers do you have that you can share with the audience?
Well, thank you so much. First, I want to appreciate the opportunity to be here, right, and to help as many men as I can, right. At the end of the day, that is my goal and that's my purpose, right. It's understanding that not everyone has the ability to gain this knowledge, right. And so, where can you find me right now? I am mainly, and I don't post as much. I will continue to in paternal life coaching at paternallife.coaching in Instagram. So you can find me there. I do coaching one-on-one. That's my bread and butter. I'm creating an app that has a lot of videos and a lot of connection and community and challenges and all that kind of stuff. So you can definitely message me. I am in the Frequency of Fatherhood group, right? And I assist in whatever I can there. So you can definitely find me here if you resonated with this or you need some assistance. At the end of the day, I do want to help as many men to become the absolute best version of themselves. We are the leaders. We are the head of the household. And when you change, it's just a trickle effect. Your family becomes better. And that's one of the last things that I do want to say is the reason why we're doing this is a legacy. The legacy that you'll be leaving for your kids and for the generations to come is beyond money. It's a wealth that cannot be, dismissed, because when your kids understand what a healthy relationship and what a healthy person looks like, they will become healthy. And in regards, they will look for a healthy partner. And in regards, they will have healthy children. And you just created the biggest legacy. Your name will be known for generations. My dad or my mom was the one that broke the generational chains, right? So I'm here in the Frequency of Fatherhood. You also can find me again in Instagram at paternallife.coaching. Thank you.
Hugo, thank you. What a value. And definitely please check them out if he resonated with you, and look forward to future conversations. Have a good day.